At its most basic, a treble in football occurs when a team wins 3 trophies in a single season. While winning any 3 trophies in a campaign can technically be termed as a treble, for example in England with the Premier League, FA Cup, and League Cup, a genuine treble, or rather the continental treble, entails winning the league title, the main domestic cup competition, and the main continental competition, the UEFA Champions League. A second-tier continental tournament like the Europa League or even the Conference League is permissible when applying the treble tag if won together with the league title and domestic cup, but it's still not considered the actual treble because the Champions League is the premier European tournament. Completing the continental treble is an impressive as well as respectable feat in football, so without further ado, here are the 10 football teams that managed to achieve it. 10. Manchester City. At the end of the 2018-19 season, Man City made history by becoming the first men's team to win the domestic treble in England, clinching the Premier League, FA Cup, and League Cup. However, in 2023, they finally sealed the continental treble. At one point in early April, City were 8 points behind leaders Arsenal in the Premier League title race. 4 league wins later, and City were crowned champions for the 5th time in 6 years. But only did the Sky Blues defeat rivals Man United to win the FA Cup at Wembley. They did so without conceding a goal until Bruno Fernandes's converted penalty in the final. Captain Ilkay Gundogan scored a brace, the first of which marked the fastest goal in cup final history at just 12 seconds, with the second being another stunning volley from outside the area. In the Champions League, they conceded just 2 goals in their 6 group games, with a stunning 7-0 home win wrapping up an 8-1 aggregate success over Leipzig in the round of 16. After that came the real test in the quarterfinals, but they answered it by killing the tie at the halfway point with a convincing 3-0 win over German champions Bayern Munich, followed by a 1-1 draw away which ensured progression. City stuck to the script of their away games when facing Real Madrid in the semi-final, as a 1-1 result in the first leg made it 5 consecutive European draws on the road. However, as had been the case throughout the knockouts, a comfortable 4-0 home win followed to set up their shot at history against Italian heavyweights Inter Milan in the final. After suffering heartache in the 2021 final against Chelsea in Lisbon, the English champions were wiser and knew what they needed to do. The final was hosted in Istanbul, Turkey, where Inter frustrated them for long periods before the influential Rodri scored the only goal of the game. The victory was then secured after some impressive saves from goalkeeper Ederson in the dying moments of the spectacle. It also allowed City manager Pep Guardiola to achieve a very impressive record in the sport. Following his success with Barcelona in the 2008-9 season, which we'll actually look at later in the video, the Spanish boss became the only manager in football history to win the treble twice and with 2 different clubs. 9. Bayern Munich. If you win a treble and no one is around to see it, did it really happen?
You need to leave!
Calm down, Bayern fans, it was only a joke.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
There's plenty of video evidence that Bayern won the league, the German Cup, and the Champions League again in the 2019-20 season, despite fans not being in attendance to see the trophies handed out due to the worldwide pandemic. The other particularly odd thing about this very successful season was that it included Bayern sacking manager Niko Kovac due to underperformance in November of 2019. The decision looked well risky at first, but surprisingly, his replacement Hansi Flick would improve the team almost immediately. Following a 2-1 loss at Borussia Mönchengladbach on the 7th of December 2019, Bayern won 19 and drew one of their final 20 Bundesliga games to win the league by a 19-point margin. Not thrown off by the 2-month break at the start of the pandemic, the Bavarians also picked up the DFB Pokal after beating Bayer Leverkusen 4-2 in the final before they were part of a mini tournament in Portugal to cap it all off with the Champions League. Lisbon played host to the final 3 rounds, which included Bayern thrashing Barcelona 8-2 in the quarterfinals. A routine 3-0 win over Olympique Lyon sent them to the final against PSG, where the French club's academy graduate Kingsley Coman scored the winner to make Bayern the second team to win 2 trebles. 8. FC Barcelona. In 2020, Bayern became the second club to achieve the treble twice. However, Barcelona made history in 2015 by becoming the first club to pull off the double. It was former player turned manager Luis Enrique's first season in charge after leaving Celta Vigo, and with the front three of Lionel Messi, Neymar Jr. and Luis Suarez, it came as no surprise when Barca dominated. The trio scored 122 goals between them, with 58 of those coming from Messi alone. They were made to sweat by Real Madrid in La Liga, eventually peeping Los Blancos to the title by 2 points to finish with 94 overall. After beating Athletic Bilbao 3-1 in the Copa del Rey final, it was on to the Champions League showpiece where Italian big boys Juventus awaited. A challenging route to the final, Barca had to vanquish Manchester City in the round of 16, Paris Saint-Germain in the quarters and Bayern in the semis. Croatian Ivan Rakitic gave them an early lead in the final hosted in Berlin, with Alvaro Morata equalizing for the Italians in the 55th minute. Suarez would restore the lead, with Neymar ensuring the Catalans' victory deep into stoppage time for Barca's second treble. 7. Bayern Munich. The Bavarians had been rattled in recent seasons, toppled by Jurgen Klopp's Borussia Dortmund on back-to-back occasions in the Bundesliga. They were determined to take their place back at the top of German football while also reclaiming their heavyweight status in Europe. The season started with 8 straight wins for Jupp Heynckes' men and ended with an incredible comfortable title win as they took 3 points in all but one of their games after the mid-season winter break. Just one league defeat saw Bayern finish with 91 points, 25 ahead of second-placed Dortmund. They faced their domestic foe in Dortmund again at Wembley in the Champions League final after getting past Arsenal, Juventus and Barcelona in the knockout stages. A back-and-forth final saw Dortmund's Ilkay Gundogan's penalty cancel out Mario Mandzukic's opener before an 89th minute goal from Arjen Robben won it for Bayern. They went on to beat Stuttgart 3-2 in the DFB Pokal final a week later to secure the club's first continental treble. 6. Inter Milan. The first continental treble of the 2010s came under the stewardship of Portuguese José Mourinho, who after a dominating 3-year stint at Chelsea, finally arrived in Italy to manage Inter Milan. The special one came to Inter at a time when the club were dominating at domestic level, but it was in Europe where he really needed to work his magic. The strike partnership of Samuel Eto'o and Diego Milito proved the main ingredient to glory, though they had strength throughout the team with Julio Cesar in goal, Lucio at the back, and Wesley Sneijder in midfield. The Nerazzurri retained the Scudetto after beating Roma in the league by 2 points before edging the Giallorossi again in the Coppa Italia final. Inter finished behind Barcelona in their Champions League group but were able to get past Chelsea and CSKA Moscow before an inevitable reunion with Barca in the semis. A Mourinho masterclass saw them deny Guardiola's men at Camp Nou in the second leg, despite losing 1-0 to advance 3-2 on aggregate, before a brace from Milito in the final against Bayern Munich completed the treble at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium. 5. FC Barcelona. In Pep Guardiola's first season as Barcelona manager, his side, playing brilliant football, swept all before them to become the first Spanish club to win the treble. Lionel Messi, Xavi Hernandez, Andres Iniesta, the list of iconic names in that side was as long as the team sheet, and they lived up to their potential by winning La Liga ahead of Real Madrid by 9 points, despite a shock 1-0 defeat at Numancia in their opening game. A 4-1 thrashing of Bilbao in the Copa del Rey final put the Blaugrana on course for their first treble. However, due to their third-place finish in La Liga the previous season, they had an extra hurdle to clear, needing to go through the third qualifying round to reach the Champions League group stages. They did manage to get past Wisła Kraków, albeit losing the second leg 1-0 in Poland, but had few problems from there on, winning their group before easing past Lyon and Bayern Munich to reach the semi-finals against Chelsea. In the famous and controversial second leg at Stamford Bridge, the English side had several penalty appeals denied before Barca went through on away goals after Iniesta's 93rd minute goal made it 1-1 on the night and on aggregate. The Spanish side then defeated defending UCL champions Manchester United 2-0 in the final in Rome, thanks to a Samuel Eto'o goal after 10 minutes and a stunning second-half header by the 5'7" great Lionel Messi. 4. Manchester United. The Red Devils had dominated English football since the dawn of the Premier League in 1992, but Champions League success initially eluded them under Sir Alex Ferguson. Using several players who were products of the club's academy system, United played exciting, attacking football and produced a host of famous comebacks to keep their campaign on track. They clinched the league title after a fierce battle with Arsenal, finishing a point ahead of the previous season's champions. Their FA Cup run also saw them battle against Arsenal, beating them 2-1 in a semi-final replay at Villa Park with a stunning solo goal from Ryan Giggs, before a more routine 2-0 win over Newcastle United in the final rewarded them with trophy number 2. After dispatching Inter in the quarters, United pulled off another dramatic semi-final win, this time against Juventus, which in turn set them up for their first Champions League final under Ferguson. They faced group stage opponents Bayern Munich in the final at Barcelona's Camp Nou stadium and were 1-0 down heading into stoppage time. Substitutes Teddy Sheringham and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would then score from David Beckham corners in the space of 2 minutes to snatch a 2-1 victory and confirm Man United as treble winners. 3. PSV Eindhoven. 11 years before an English side completed the treble, future Chelsea boss Guus Hiddink completed his first full season as a manager, having previously been an assistant after retiring as a player in 1982. His PSV team easily won the Eredivisie, finishing 9 points clear of second-placed rivals Ajax with a total of 117 goals in their 34 league matches. They almost lost the Dutch Cup final, needing an 85th minute equalizer to take Roda JC to extra time, where they eventually won 3-2. Despite not winning a game inside 90 minutes beyond the second round of the European Cup, Hiddink's team battled their way to the final, beating Bordeaux in the quarterfinals on away goals and Real Madrid in the semis by the same method after both ties finished 1-1 on aggregates. They then faced two-time European champions Benfica in the final, hosted in Stuttgart, with the tie finishing goalless after 120 minutes. PSV would go on to win 6-5 on penalties when their goalkeeper Hans van Breukelen saved Antonio Veloso's spot kick in sudden death to complete the treble for the Dutchmen. 2. Ajax Amsterdam. The Dutch Giants were defending European champions, having beaten Panathinaikos at Wembley Stadium in the previous season's final, but now they were without legendary manager Rinus Michels, who left for Barcelona at the end of the 1970-71 campaign. Nonetheless, Michels still left a great team behind for new manager Stefan Kovac, and they showed that by losing just once en route to the Eredivisie title, winning 26 of their final 27 league games. Ajax then defeated FC Den Haag 3-2 in the Dutch Cup final before further European glory awaited. The Amsterdam club played Inter in the final, with the advantage of it taking place in the Netherlands at Feyenoord's De Kuip Stadium in Rotterdam. A brace from Johan Cruyff was enough to seal a 2-0 win and the treble for an impressive team that would go on to win a third consecutive European Cup a year later. 1. Celtic. This remains a unique achievement by the Scottish Giants, not only because they were the first club to win the treble, but that it actually ended up being a quadruple. A Celtic team, all born within a 48-kilometer radius of the club's stadium in Glasgow, claimed League, Scottish Cup and Scottish League Cup success before becoming the first British team to lift the European Cup. Led by manager Jock Stein, the Hoops only lost 2 league games all season on their way to the title, both to Dundee United, and finished 3 points ahead of old firm rivals Rangers, whom they also beat 1-0 in the League Cup final. A 2-0 victory over Aberdeen in the Scottish Cup final secured a domestic treble before they headed to Lisbon for the most famous night in the club's history. It wasn't a great start in the European Cup final against Inter, with Sandro Mazzola putting the Nerazzurri ahead after 7 minutes from the penalty spot. However, Tommy Gemmel's equalizer just after the hour mark was followed by Stevie Chalmers' winner 6 minutes from time. The victory earned the Glasgow side the Lisbon Lions moniker and cemented their deserved place in football history.